Right back here on the early line for a Tuesday morning here. A little bit of updated information. It's Donny, Rightside, and Joe Raineri. We do a live show. We like to bring you stuff that is absolutely live. How about Tommy DeVito, released from the New York Giants? It's apparent here their quarterback room now is intact. Russell Wilson will be the starting quarterback. Jameis Winston, I guess, would be the number 2. And then Jackson Dart, the de facto number 3. But Tommy DeVito cut today from the New York Giants. He's going to either get back to that practice squad or somebody's picking him up, Joe.
I'm not so sure Jameis is the number 2 in Dable's mind, but he'll play it that way. Russ is the clear 1, but don't be shocked. Again, quarterback-needy teams. Jackson Dart is the future of the Giants. Jameis Winston is not. He's expendable. Wouldn't shock me, Donny, at all if we start hearing about the phone ringing there and maybe Jameis, like Pickett, could be another guy up for sale.
Yeah, we'll get some interesting, names that'll be out there on the wire once this day ends. Oh, I didn't think that was going to happen, or a surprise here. Tommy DeVito's not necessarily a surprise. One of those quarterbacks had to go. It just was him. They didn't sign, I don't think, Jameis Winston to not have him on the roster. We'll see how it plays out, but I do think Tommy DeVito is an NFL quarterback. A starter? Maybe not, but he certainly deserves to be on a roster, and he'll find his way to a roster. You know who else found their way back to the roster? It was Terry McLaurin and the Commanders. They reached a 3-year deal worth up to $96 million. Scary Terry's in the building. Now the Commanders can focus on the season, maybe chase down the Philadelphia Eagles, make a deeper run in the playoffs, which means, Joe, they get to the Super Bowl here. But Terry's back in the fold. They needed that to happen, and it happened.
All right, can we all have a legit conversation here, though, for a minute on it with this? If I hear one more player tell me how I want a trade request, and then we spend 5 more minutes talking about, you know what would be a great fit if they wanted to trade him? Ultimately, for them to do exactly this. He was the first guy this year, way before Parsons, way before Hendrickson. It started with him, where he was like, everything showed up at camp, everything's good. And then McLaurin, a couple days later, was like, listen, we're not moving. Trade me. Here's my trade request. Then Hendrickson requested to be traded. Then Parsons requested. The only guy who has said, everyone settle down, let's not lose any sleep over this, everything's going to work out, is Jerry Jones, who we all think is a few fries short of a Happy Meal. But the reality is, how is he wrong, Donny? How is he wrong? You can ask for a trade request all you want. Doesn't mean you're going anywhere. It likely means you're not being traded, and that's exactly what we saw here.
Exactly. Usually when you get the trade request, it doesn't even come up. Like, you're moved. Like, you don't even have to request the trade. You just go behind the scenes. I want a trade request. In 3 hours, you're moved to another team. I always remember, like, Tyreek Hill getting traded from the Kansas City Chiefs. We had a note like, hey, looks like he might want to trade here. And like 5 minutes later, it was a done deal to the Miami Dolphins. Contract signed, sealed, delivered, and away he went to Miami. Also understand this. Myles Garrett, don't you remember? I just don't like Cleveland anymore. It's not even about the money. Well, how about we pay you more than anybody else? Oh, love Cleveland. I don't want to get traded now. It is about the money, and I'll stay in Cleveland and win 4 games this year, but it was never about the money. I want to win. No, it's not. It's always about the money. You pay these players what they want. They'll say whatever you want them to say at this point. Next up is Trey Hendrickson. He was upset. He stayed away from camp for like 3 or 4 days. The Bengals goes, we ain't giving you a new deal. 50 grand, 50 grand, 50 grand. All right, I'll show up here, but I want a long-term deal, and I'm not getting off my sticking point, Joe, of a long-term deal. He got a 1-year deal, got a pay bump, but he didn't get his long-term deal. So apparently, Joe, he didn't stick with his emotions and say to myself, I'm never changing off of what I want. Yeah, you did. You're back in camp. You're making good money, and we'll see what happens. But Hendrickson back in the fold there for the Bengals.
I mean, this has been going on for 2 years, Donny. He has been battling with the front office of the Bengals for a raise that kind of went along with what he was producing on the field. And then, of course, they let this thing drag out. This wasn't like an over the summer thing where Hendrickson was trying to hold their feet to the fire. For 2 years, the guy has been, 17 and a half sacks, led the league in 2024. He's got the most sacks over the last 2 years. He's been trying to get paid in a new deal. And the best they could do was, all right, we'll give you $30 million, but then you're a free agent at the end of the year. Well, all right, congratulations. Now you got to worry about another team stepping in and paying him what you should have paid him already.
Exactly. Now, understand this, Joe, because I've always said, like, the offseason, you draft the young rookie defensive edge pass rusher, and he doesn't sign right away. But he signed, like, okay, that's pretty good. So he's back in the lineup. Then you take a look at Trey Hendrickson. It's like, well, you can't trade him and get a third-round pick back or a second-round pick. That doesn't help you this year. He's back into the fold. If we look at the odds for the AFC North to win that, Ravens at -155, the Bengals at that +260 price, then the Steelers and the Browns. Do you feel any better today about the Cincinnati Bengals than you did in the offseason? Because I do, because it could have been disastrous. And so it's like we got that car back on the road, driving down 55 miles an hour, and the radio's playing, and the vibes are good again.
Well, I got to tell you, now this is better for the Bengals because him being a free agent at the end of the year, Donnie, means he's playing for that contract this year for them. So for $30 million, yes, he's in line as one of the highest paid defensive, pass rushers in the league. But he also knows that if he falls flat on his face this year, well, what have you done for me lately? You're looking for that big next contract. He's got to show up. I think this helps the Bengals, certainly defensively, as long as Burrow and company stay healthy and that offensive line shows up. I don't know that it helps the numbers right now, but I don't think it's a bad thing for the Bengals at all.
No, it's not. And you take a look at the schedule, like opening up against the Cleveland Browns. It's on the road. You're a better team than the Browns. Now, granted, also last year, we didn't play in the preseason, talking about the Bengals. They showed up week number 1 against a bad New England team and lost to them. Now they played in the preseason, and their defense is going to be intact. Can't be any worse than last year. They should be able to beat the Browns. Then they come home against the Jacksonville Jaguars. They'll be favored in that game as well. This should be a 2-0 start, which is something we're not used to seeing for the Cincinnati Bengals, Joe.
Listen, they sacrificed one of the better DCs in Lou Anarumo, who's now at Indy. So they bring in Golden, and now all of a sudden we had Hendrickson issues. But now that that's all wrapped up, I still say the Bengals are hit or miss based upon how they protect Joe Burrow. That offensive line has been one of the worst over the last 2 seasons, Donnie. They got to get the offensive line right if they are going to make a run at Baltimore.
Exactly. Now, Joe Burrow does like to play with fire in the pocket. What I mean by that is he holds the football longer to make sure his wide receivers can get open. So he'll cause some of those sacks. But you're right. You take one hit at the wrong time and your season is over. You must protect Joe Burrow in that pocket. We'll see if they can do that. But their defense, hey, maybe there's some hope on the horizon. More moves around the NFL landscape coming up next right here on the early line. It's Tuesday, people. Get excited. The Raiders making moves out here. Why? Because Aiden O'Connell, your backup quarterback, went down with a broken bone. You got to get somebody with some veteran leadership that can come in behind Geno Smith if you need him. And Pete Carroll's an old school guy. You think Geno Smith pulls a hamstring or maybe gets a concussion test in week number 1 and you're going to a guy that hasn't played that much in the NFL? That ain't happening. So you know what happened yesterday? Kenny Pickett was traded from the Cleveland Browns to the Vegas Raiders to sort of add to that quarterback room and get a little bit more veteran talent just in case Geno goes down. But also the other side of the equation now, much clearer quarterback room to keep 2 young players along with Joe Flacco. That's what I saw yesterday, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear now, at least the direction that the Browns are heading with that room with Flacco at the top of the board there. And then they will try to figure it out between Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders there. But Pickett is hilarious. I mean, this is a guy that was the number 20 overall pick in 2022, right, by Pittsburgh. Then somehow gets to the Philadelphia Eagles in exchange for a 5th-round pick, right? And then wins a Super Bowl as the backup quarterback, Donnie. Then he gets traded to the Browns in the offseason, and now he gets traded to the Raiders. So tell me you can be as mediocre as you like and be a backup quarterback in the NFL and still make millions of dollars.
There you go. See, it's one of the best jobs because as a backup quarterback, you never want to really get into the game, but you're a very popular ops. Like, man, put Pickett in there. He can't be any worse. Yeah. And Pickett's like, you know what? Maybe I can. Why don't you just sit on the sideline here and support the starting quarterback and make a couple $1 million a year, and away you go into your career. That can happen. But Kenny Pickett on the move from Cleveland over to the Vegas Raiders. Another guy on the move. How about Amari Cooper signing with the Raiders, the team that drafted him in 2015? Then he had some stints there, obviously, with the Dallas Cowboys and the Cleveland Browns. He was good with the Browns in 2023, 1,250 yards, but sort of fell off the map last year with the Browns and also the Buffalo Bills, looking for that career resurgence here. Once a very good wide receiver, but it's been a while since that's been the case. We'll see if he can regain that form. Or should I say, Joe Raineri, do you think he can regain that form in Vegas?
Yeah, well, a lot of it is going to depend on who your quarterback is. And who's his quarterback in Vegas?
Gino.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Because if Josh Allen can't make you look good and can't help you, boost your career and get back on track at 31 years old, Geno Smith is not going to be the guy to make you look good. So don't forget, quarterbacks make receivers. Receivers don't make quarterbacks.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Sometimes you can catch lightning in a bottle, but it's the same way, like, hey, Odell Beckham's going to keep changing teams here. Sooner than later, you understand somebody is cooked. And also, most really good wide receivers, Joe, they're not signing August the 25th or 26th to get placed on a football team as the last piece of the puzzle to add as your wide receiver number one. That's the way it goes down. How about this one? Dan Skipper, who is known for doing this, Joe, if you can see the graphic. All right, I'm uncovered. I'm covered here, ref. Sort of sneaking that one by. He was released as an offensive tackle. That was surprising. Now, does he find his way to Chicago automatically so we can get Ben Johnson to sort of do the same things he did in Detroit? But that was an odd one. Early cut yesterday for him.
It is odd because, again, experienced linemen like that, Donnie, don't exactly, they don't fall in people's laps here. But nobody saw that coming. And I'm wondering if this might be injury related somewhere along the lines that we're not hearing about, but it'll be interesting to see exactly where he lands, because I don't think he'll be without a job or a team here very long.
No, I don't think he will be either. Offensive lineman, put it this way, Joe, if you're a tackle and you have a pulse in the NFL, you will be picked up by somebody, because everybody needs offensive linemen. That is a correct statement here. How about Teddy Bridgewater, QB2 in Tampa? Guy just came off the freeway, drove on up from Miami, coaching high school football, said, hey, Tampa, you think I can help you out? Sure you can. Get back in here. I hope he doesn't wear like a jersey that's like number 40 or 80 or whatever the heck he was wearing in Detroit.
We just had this conversation, right? Just be a backup quarterback. It's better than being the sixth man on an NBA team.
Yeah.
Because they make trillions of dollars doing absolutely nothing but playing 6 minutes a night. The backup quarterback role, you can be high school coach 1 year, backup quarterback for the Tampa Bay Bucks the next year, and making millions. Unreal.
By the way, keep it in Tampa. The NFL's heaviest player in history cut by Tampa. His name was Desmond Watson. Did you see any the highlights? His highlights were walking up and down the field as opposed to doing gassers, and that's how he was supposed to lose weight, Joe. How about that?
They really tried to get the guy. I mean, they really did. They put a lot of energy and effort trying to get this guy underweight and athletic enough to make a difference, but he just couldn't do it.
Let me understand this, too. You got to be kidding me. When you're that big, it should be so easy to lose weight in camp. They put you on a decent diet. You walk around the field in 85 to 90-degree temperatures. You lose 30 pounds in 3 weeks. He couldn't do that. Man, more NFL topics next. Is how we get down. It's Cutdown season. Donny Rightside and Joe Raineri. When we talk about football today, there'll be a lot of people. I mean, it's got to be over 1,000 people losing their job today, Joe. Would you say? I mean, we'd have 30. Let me do some quick math here. Let's just say, I don't know, cut down day, you go from 80 or so players down to 50. So let's just call it 30 to be kind. We'll go 30 times what? 32? Roughly 950 plus players today probably will be released in the NFL. There will be a bloodbath. Some of these guys will get picked up by other teams. Some will go right back to their teams on the practice squad, because the rules changed on what you can do with the practice squad, and also have a bigger practice squad than you had in the past. Those guys will be fine. But if we just take a look at the coaches, cut down season for the coaches, it's no surprise. When we look at the coaches that we expect to be fired early on in the season, or at least odds-wise, it doesn't surprise me that comes up as Mike McDaniel as the favorite at a plus 200 price for the Miami Dolphins. That's a powder keg. Expectations for the Dolphins for me this year aren't high. But also, you have to understand this. It's not the first year of regime. You don't get to say, hey, you know what, Joe? Things didn't work out for us this year, but I know next year things will get better. That's not the case. So if we look at this list, McDaniel, Dable, Steichen, Stefanski, Canales, Gannon, Taylor, it does make sense that Mike McDaniel is the leader in the clubhouse right now to me.
Absolutely. I mean, it's dysfunction, Donnie. I mean, I hear it every day here in South Florida. The reports coming out is that this team lacks leadership in a big way in that locker room. And you know where it starts? Right with the head coach in Mike McDaniel. So listen, some guys make great offensive coordinators, great defensive coordinators, don't make great head coaches. We've seen that for decades in the NFL. But there are a lot of guys on that list, him just being one of them, that it's make or break time here, and you better put up or shut up. I think the Giants are going to be better than some people think. And I think as long as Dable can show that, him and Dart are on the same page, then I think he's pretty much safe. So I don't think there's any value in him. But who are we kidding? If Dallas wins 4 or 5 games this year, tell me they won't have a new head coach and a new everything coming in a year from now.
Yeah, like Mike Tomlin, 28-1, first head coach fired this season. Come on now. That's not going to be the case at that point. But if we are looking up top, like Brian Dable's a 4-1 price. He should have got fired last year. But again, that organization is so poorly run from top to bottom. Like, I don't think Dable gets fired even if they win one game. Like, hey, you know what? We have a future quarterback and a high draft pick. Let's get excited for things. Now, granted, I think that the Giants are going to win at least 5 games this year, but I don't think Dable's getting fired. Steichen's an interesting one, but also no longer, like, your owner passes away in Jim Irsay. Sometimes he could fly off the handle. Like, he told you how much he hated Jonathan Taylor, and then one day he's like, hey, man, love this guy. Signed to a big deal. What, are you kidding me? Love this guy. I always wanted to be on this football team. You don't have that sort of, like, violent, like, swings that you would have. Stefanski, I don't think is going anywhere. Canales is an interesting one. But Mike McDaniel, to me, absolutely. If you look at that list, Joe, up and down, can a Todd Bowles get fired, like, midseason? Like, Raheem Morris, 18-1. There's one with a chance with expectations, right?
Not going to happen. Zach Taylor would be the guy that I would look at, because of the Bengals, who started,
no way,
all their starters all preseason long because they want to get off to a good start. And I'll tell you right now, if the Bengals start again, 1-3, 1-4, 0-4, yeah, Zach Taylor is firmly going to be the leader in the odds board on that, because I think he, of all people, is on his last legs.
Yeah, hold on. Let me see this too, because I always get a kick out of this. And here's where I always like jump in with Cincinnati is run so ridiculously opposite of everybody else. Marvin Lewis was a good coach, but I always remember the times like with Marvin Lewis had a year left on his contract, the Bengals would never fire him. Not because it'd be better for the organization, but they go, we have to pay Marvin Lewis an extra year and he's not going to be here. We got to get a coaching staff, which means you have to pay that coaching staff for a year and bring in your new coaching staff. So when I look here, Zach Taylor's contract with the Cincinnati Bengals runs through 2026. There's no way he's getting fired during the season here. Wait a second. If I fire him, that means I have to get an interim coach off the staff. And if that interim coach is making $300,000, I got to pay him like $1 million to coach the rest of the season. Hey, Zach, even though we stink right now, run the rest of the season. That's the way the Bengals think. Not what's best for the organization, what's best for the bottom line. So when I look and see Zach Taylor at 9-1, that should be 999-1, because they ain't never firing him with a year left on his contract to elevate somebody else and pay him like a head coach for the remaining parts of the season. That's madness at this point, Joe. But that's the NFL. That's the way it goes down. We'll see if Mike McDaniel makes it past the month of September at this point, or things just go completely awry. The early line, you never know who's going to show up. You never know what the surprise is. You never know who's going to brighten your morning right here on the SportsGrid Network. With Joe Raineri and myself, we try to do the best we can to sort of get the day kicked off in the right direction. And then as the day moves on, you need that energy pick-me-up right around 6:30 p.m. Eastern. That's Game Time Decision. We have the host of Game Time Decisions here. It's Kevin Walsh. What are you doing, man? Good to see you.
Great to see you guys. Excited to be here. You're breaking down a full baseball card. Are you celebrating Futures Day, fellas?
Ah, yeah. I mean, futures, $10. Tie up your money for 6 months for $10 and don't even know who you actually took at this point. It's a big Futures Day here. By the way, I do enjoy heading up to the Kevin Walsh Memorial Studios there in Bellworks and having shows on college football. Like I used to seeing you around the studios, haven't seen you there. So maybe it's that time to get involved again.
I heard you were throwing a real fit. Your headset wasn't where you had last left it.
Oh, they tried me.
You were real upset. You were trying to get chairs moved around. You know what I told everybody? Good work. Shook a couple of hands, liked what I was hearing.
Exactly. That headset got removed immediately. I told Joe to buck up and sit up in that chair and like it. In 3, 2, 1, we were live. Now, let's get to the good stuff here, because we had a little kinship last night. The Philadelphia Phillies, Kevin, I picked up my phone as a double went down the line. I was going to text in, ooh, that's another winner. 3.5 team total on the Phillies. Boy, was that easy. They didn't score the rest of the way. Then I see a tweet, because as old as I am at 47 years old, sometimes I still can't sleep when I lose wagers I should win. You had something happen to you last night that was absolutely stunning. On a team that scored 13 runs last night, you weren't even like you didn't even need base hits. You just needed a dude to wind up on base and get knocked in from somebody. Francisco Lindor went 0 for 6 with 3 strikeouts at the top of that order for a team that not only just busted up the Phillies, they scored in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. and you got nothing. You didn't even get one HRR from my guy Lindor last night.
So you're in the market more frequently than I am, Donnie.
Yeah.
So maybe you've seen this. I've never seen. First of all, half of the reason because I also bet the Mets yesterday. About 80% of that was probably how hot Francisco Lindor was. I believe the quote I said on Game Time was, well, the Mets go as he goes. Lie. That's just not true. Apparently, nothing that he does matters whatsoever. Not only was it that every other starter had 2+ hit run RBI, pinch hitter Brett Beatty ended up with 2+ because he had multiple runs scored. I cannot believe that arguably the best player on the Mets in a game they scored 13 finished 0 for 6 while the rest of the whole lineup ate.
Tough scene.
Who do you have more faith in, Kev? American League or National League when it comes to who's going to make the postseason or not? It feels like the American League is going to change over the next 5 weeks, every other day. The National League, maybe not so much.
It's so tough because the Cincinnati Reds, so for full context, I took the Reds as a World Series future before the season, looking for a long, shot. I wanted long odds if I was going to actually be willing to go against the Dodgers. And this team is impossibly frustrating. They have to have the worst record of any team in the history of baseball to go this long without being swept. Because realistically, what actually matters, you can get swept, sweep a team. They're the kings of the 1 and 2. Like, again, usually great teams, it's like, listen, we take 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3. They're like, nope, 1 out of 3. It is maddening to see this Cincinnati Reds team act this way. With that said, though, Joe, they've hung around all year. And it's really a matter of, does a team fully collapse? Like, the Mets have had moments where it looked like it would be them. Maybe the Cubbies have had a moment. Is there still enough time for a Padres maybe to slump out of the playoffs? That's really the question, because it doesn't look like Cincinnati at any point is going to hunt someone down, but they may be there with enough time to catch that falling knife and sneak into the National League.
Yeah, I thought last night would have been a nice opportunity. Had the pitcher on the mound, you should have knocked around Sheehan dominates them. It's like, yeah, that's what you get on the Reds on a night-to-night basis. You never know what you're getting with the Reds. But let's keep it in the Queen City, the same city here of Cincinnati, because I'm talking about that football team. Now that we have Trey Hendrickson left in the building, and I always love this. Give me this first, because I want your vibe check on Cincinnati with now, like, basically everybody's in the fold, ready to go, pulling in the same direction for game number 1. They played in the preseason, but also this. This saga isn't over with Trey Hendrickson, is it? Like, okay, well, we'll sign you. We'll give you the bump. You'll be a free agent next year. You tell me right now, Trey Hendrickson goes for 22 sacks. That's an NFL record in Cleveland. And Cincinnati goes, we made a deal with you last year. We won't tag you. They'll tag him right upside the window and say, you'll come back at any price we like again, and you'll like it here. How does this end up with Trey Hendrickson and your vibes for Cincinnati now that everybody's in? Everybody's happy.
Yeah, I think the thing, though, is, Donnie, this ends up actually a win for Cincinnati, as so many of these situations seem to for the organization, because the fact that it's a 1-year deal, if they would have ended up having to give him $38 million, you would be able to justify it that, well, it's only a 1-year deal, right? The fact that they get this guy outside of the top 5 in edge rusher money, and it's only a 1-year deal. Look, some of the hesitation, not all of it, with Trey Hendrickson is his age, right? He'll be 31 in December. Compare that to Micah Parsons. That's a legitimate gap there. So, look, it's a fair point, DRS. Who knows what Cincinnati's going to do next offseason? But the thing is, a lot of it's going to be dictated by how good they are, right? Like, part of the reason they paid Chase and Higgins is how historic that offense felt last year. If this team misses the playoffs again, they may let Trey walk, but more importantly, they're going to be in the market for a brand new head coach.
Oh, yeah.
Better protect Burrow. Otherwise, it doesn't make a difference what they do on defense in that spot, Kev. But let's be realistic here. Can we just all from this point promise each other that when a player in the offseason requests a trade, we immediately stop talking about, what would be a great trade, because it's not happening, Walsh. McLaurin also gets it done there for the Commanders. And I think, listen, we all thought he was worth the money and you should give it to him. Age was an issue with him too, but he got the money. 6th highest paid receiver now.
Look, here's the deal. At this point, I would like for Woj to come out of retirement and dunk on the rest of these NFL reporters. A trade request means something in the NBA. When Giannis says, I'm out of here, he's out of there. When James Harden says he's gone and the organization's like, no, you're not, and he's like, okay, guess what? I'm 45 pounds heavier. I've been eating at the Walsh house. And then he gets traded. So in the NFL, McLaurin gets paid. And an hour later, Jacoby Myers goes, trade request. And your whole timeline, well, no way Vegas gets rid of him this late in the game. I'm sure they'll work. Stop saying trade request. Stop. We need a new phrase, a new thing, because we then go to the market. Hey, Terry McLaurin, what could he bring to the table? Is this going to impact the Jaden Daniels markets? Is Deebo Samuel? No. And the Micah Parsons one is like the closest one. But again, it just feels like Parsons is going to miss the opener. Does anybody actually think Micah Parsons isn't going to be a Dallas Cowboy? Not really.
I'm telling you right now, I really think behind the scenes, months ago, they agreed to this deal and said, this is just better. I have a Netflix, thing coming out here. Let's really string this through. You act like a fool. You're already paid. You know it. You don't have to practice all that much. Don't get yourself injured. And then by the time we get to a day before the game, or maybe game day, we signed the deal. Micah Parsons in there. The perfect Jerry Jones story as this gets.